My name is Jessica LaRusso from Workplace Education Manitoba, and I'd like to invite you to the webinar titled Google Suite. Before I introduce our instructor today, I'd like to review some features that we'll be using during our webinar and some troubleshooting as well. On the top of your screen, you'll see three icons: a smile emoji, a question mark in a blue box, and a telephone. The emoji icon will open up a variety of expressions, such as thumbs up or thumbs down, for example. Please let your instructor know how you feel about the information from time to time and when she asks you for feedback. The question mark box, that's the one in the blue box, will allow you to ask questions that the instructor will answer during the webinar. Or plus, the instructor will ask you for private comments, possibly statements, and the question box is where you want to put those questions. Now, for this particular webinar, we're going to actually do a Q&A after. So if you'd like your question answered or touched upon at that time, please put it in the question box with the blue icon. If you need to switch to the telephone, there is the telephone icon there for you. Lastly, there is an option to chat. You can chat with each other, give each other some inspiration, ask questions. That is a useful option to ask also some questions there and interactions, though our instructor today is going to be doing questions and answers after. I have shared my email address in the chat area, as well as my telephone where you can text. But I'm going to ask you, please email me if you're having trouble with any support concerns, such as your volume or something's going on, and then I can help you off the chat area. So take a moment to write down the email address. It's jlorusso@wem.mb.ca. And the chat may be cleared from time to time, so please get your pen and paper out very quickly and write that down. Also, there's some support links for you if you need them. So if you can just copy and paste them onto another Word document, that would be great too, if you run into any trouble. However, please email me and I will help you there as well. Another thing is in the chat box, I've also put our workbook for today, or our student book for today. Don't worry, just get your pen and paper out and write notes, and you can refer back to your workbook, or if you want to open it up during our webinar today, please do so. But don't feel that you have to print it out and do anything right now. We've sent you a pre-assessment via email last night, and I saw that some of you have completed it. If you haven't completed it, please do so. We greatly appreciate that. Also, please enjoy your webinar. We're going to be working with you today, and I'm here to talk to you via chat and off with email. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming today, and I'd like to tell you about your instructor, Rochelle Amy. Rochelle Amy has an impressive professional career in education. She has engaged in education and student development since the year 2000, setting unique or includes university K-12, school adult education. Rochelle Amy, her focus is to work on non-for-profit sector growth in administrative order and marketing and communications. So she comes with an amazing rap sheet. She has instructed and trained in non-for-profit settings. Her best learners were during her 3 years. She set aside home to educate for her children. She's an amazing instructor in essential skills, and that's what we're going to be learning today as well. And she's been with WEM since the year 2019 and works in the Interlake West Center. She also worked with a few different companies and also learned how to function in Microsoft in a setting and Google, and another great opportunity to compare platforms on a daily basis. On a personal note, and to further give more value to her students, she went back to school recently as a student in a master's degree in leadership. That's excellent, Rochelle. So please help me by pressing the applause emoji, which you can locate at the top of your page. And so, Rochelle, I'm really excited about learning about Google Suite today. So if you would, please welcome Rochelle. And Rochelle, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. I think the best way to use that emoji button is to do it again and hit that applause for Jessica, because she's not the best host and she'll be behind the scenes doing all the technical stuff. And without a person like that, honestly, it just would not function. Thank you for coming today. This is the foundation session today, day one, where we're going to get those foundational skills for Google Suite. Over the 3 sessions, we will cover what is Google Suite, what is Google Drive. Then in tomorrow's session, we'll talk about the different Office products and collaboration or sharing settings. And then day 3, I hope to just fill up your toolbox with tips and tricks and tools that you can use. Of course, you're all Wemmers or Wemmians who are joining me today. What's the proper term? Put that in the chat box. Are we Wemmers? So you understand, of course, what the goals and the mission and the vision of workplace education is. I love it, Wemmians. Wemmians it is. It sounds a little bit like May the 4th, doesn't it? Of course, we do always want to thank our funders. So Employment and Social Development Canada and Manitoba Education and Training, we're so grateful to be able to have our programs funded to share with others. You all are familiar with the 9 essential skills, and as such, you know that today we're focusing on digital technology. And I love that you signed up for today and that you're willing to be teachable and you're willing to learn and sharpen skills, because we can see that literally every year we have to upskill in digital technology. I felt this personally just recently. I had a phone I loved. I don't know if I had it 5 years, I can't remember, Samsung something or other, and it just worked for me. And my husband showed up one day to be so kind as to bring me a new phone, and it was an iPhone. Hey, Wemitonians love it. An iPhone something or other. And so I had to like totally switch digital literacy and figure out this new system and join the iPhone cult movement. If you're one of those people, you can give me a thumbs up that you love it, because I know you Mac and iPhone people are so dedicated to that. But it was a good reminder for me that digital technology, hey iPhone people, digital technology is just something that we're just not going to get away from. We have to keep learning it. So the faces behind the scenes are Leah and Melody, who've put this together and run the Interlake branch, and of course Jessica, who you did get to meet already. And just a photo of our West Center in the Interlake, because I know we don't get to visit each other's West Centers very much, but we're just in the process of moving into a really cool heritage building. So come visit us. Now let's jump in. Thank you for those of you who did the surveys so that we get a sense of where you're at. And of course, you Wemians, we know we have to measure skill gain, so you'll get that post survey also. How many of you, raise your hand by using an emoji, are working from home right now? You're in your house, you're not in another space. And so I was in a webinar the other day, and I wish I would have had this sign up on my door. This is one I saw online, and I thought it was hilarious, because I told my kids, leave me alone. If the door is closed, I am totally unavailable. Sure enough, halfway through, the door opens and they're whispering, we just have one question, just one thing. So you're fortunate, you're not being broadcast right now, but hopefully, no random thing will come into my feed here with me today. And see the question there, what town is the Interlake? Our office is in Selkirk, but we do travel all around offering our workshops. So today, really, we want to grab a hold of why Google Suite is preferred in workplaces. We want to talk about Chrome installation and use. We want to get a real grasp of Google Drive and in creating new files. If we do that, all the next things we do in using the Google products will work seamlessly for us. I didn't learn it this way. I had to learn it sort of a backwards way. And so I really hope this information can help you get set up with good foundation for how you'll use Google. So really, if we answer 2 questions today, we will have our foundation stones in place. And before we get totally in, I'm just so curious on the Wemian side. Can you use your chat box and just tell me where you're from? What town are you in? So not your region, but your actual town or city. Brandon, I love Brandon. Steinbeck, I love. Oh, they're coming in so fast. Morden, Thompson, Flin Flon. Oh, I've been to almost all of these towns. I love it. I've not been to Flin Flon yet. That was on our list this summer to be in Flin Flon. So we're going to hope that that opens up and we can actually go camping in Flin Flon like we planned. Love it. You guys are awesome. Gilbert Plains, how cool are you? So awesome. I love it. Well, that's the amazing thing about Google is we could be anywhere in Manitoba. We could actually be anywhere around the world and we can connect via the Google platform. I'd like to know, do you use a Gmail address? Give me a thumbs up, and I'm going to take a quick look at how many thumbs up come across. Okay, so we have, it looks like majority of the people have a Gmail address. Is that your primary address? That your main email address that you use for most things? Not for some, no, okay. So it's just something that you sort of were forced to do at some point. How about Google products at work? Do you find you're using any of the Google software in your workplace? Got some yeses and nos. So we have a lot of Microsoft people here, I'm going to imagine. And finally, do you ever use Google Docs? We got a couple, okay. So what we find in our, sorry to make you cry talking about Google Docs. What we find in our classrooms with WEM, of course, in our West Centers, is that when we teach the Microsoft platform, it works to start with Microsoft Word first, and then move to Excel, and then move to other digital technology skills. And so we would do the same thing here in our look at Google, as the entry-level product is the Docs. So that's where we'll go to give us all the same foundation stones. So, you know, any brand is often called a suite, you know, so it used to be called Microsoft Suite. We often hear Google Suite and we think like, what the heck is that? It's no different than booking a hotel room. If you just book an average hotel room, it's just a one-room thing. If you book a suite, you have multiple rooms, multiple options. So that's really all suite is meaning, is it's encompassing something bigger. So Google's a brand, and the brand owns many products. So this to me is a lot like ketchup. So I could buy ketchup, or I could buy Heinz ketchup, or French's ketchup, or PC brand ketchup, or no name ketchup. And if any of you are parents, I just want to let you know, we did a huge taste test, me and a friend of mine, with our kids. And did you know if you buy the no name yellow label ketchup, I'm convinced it's Heinz brand in there, you pour that into your Heinz bottle, your kids will absolutely not know. So there you go. You can buy $1.80 ketchup instead of $4 ketchup, and your family will never know the difference. But this is like the Google suite. It's a whole host of products. It's just that the brand is Heinz or the brand is Google. And so we need to learn how their particular brand works. Why did it become popular? Why is Google a thing? Well, it started years ago already, and really first they changed what people pay for. People used to pay for a good computer with lots of memory and lots of speed, and they paid to install the software on their computer. Google ended that. They came out with a system where it said, it doesn't matter how fast your computer is, doesn't matter how much memory you have, you don't even need software on your program because we're going to host all of that online. All you need is a computer that can connect to the internet. And if you can do that, you can access all of the programs for free. Secondly, they also changed what the internet is used for. people used to use the internet for basically research. Now, research is a light way to say surfing the internet, looking for information and looking for ways to connect with other people. So we used to have a mindset that you could do your work at your computer on your computer, but then when you went to the internet, it was a separate thing and you were just searching the internet. Google changed that and they made the internet connection the place where you would find your software and the place where you would do your work. They also redefined user-friendly, and I don't think any other program can compare in user-friendly. That is, once you're inside their app or inside one of their software programs, the ease, the clarity, the way they've outlined how to find things is so visually simple and user-friendly. They did away with the save feature, so you don't even see that little picture of a floppy disk anymore. You don't do file save. That's gone. Your work's just automatically saved. And they've done away with the save as function. So I know in my in the West Center in Interlake, save as is actually a thing that seriously confuses brand new users. And Google's done away with that, and they just have the phrase make a copy, and that's it. So we say it's so simple to use, and yet what the heck, when we really just look at Google, there's just a bazillion icons, and there's all these phrases, Suite and Chrome and Search and Docs, and Maps is probably the first product we ever used of Google's. And with all of these phrases and all of these terms, how on earth did it end up that I'll just Google that became a thing, where Google became a verb? And instead of just going online and looking for something and using Google for that, we have all of these incredible icons or applications available to us. So really it's in the way that they progressed in what they were trying to achieve in the technical market. They started out as a search engine. So that was a tool to be able to get information on the internet. So that little search bar at the top of your window when you're looking for something online, that search bar with the picture of the magnifying glass, that's your search engine that you're in. And Google started with that, where people identified, I'll search something, I'll just Google that. But then they also have developed a web browser. So you can see that icon that we have come to recognize as a picture of Chrome. Well, that means this is the software that you'll use to get onto the internet. So not just to be able to search once you're there, but to use this portal to get on. And then of course they came up with super user-friendly software. And the software is a little bit of a game changer because, like I said, since they made it free, all kinds of startups and people working at home just started to go through the Google path instead of the competitor brand paths. So really, Gmail is probably the most popular thing that most people have used Google for. And why would that be a big deal? What does that mean about our learners out there? What does that mean about our colleagues out there, about their use of an email program? Well, it means that the Gmail is dominating the world market. So chances are, if you want easy email interface with someone, chances are they have a Gmail address. And if not, it's very user-friendly to set up. So really, with the amount of searching that's going out there online using all different search engines, Google has taken over. They dominate in the search engine market. In the email market, they've just eclipsed Apple. And I think it depends who's funding the research. If you read research funded by Apple, they say they still have the market share. But when I was looking around, it seemed like Google was actually eclipsing it. And one of the reasons is because startup companies are using Google. Because the software is free, initial storage is free, they can have employees access all of the software at no cost to them. So very often it's imposed that if you're a startup company, your colleagues and your employees are being asked to use their own devices. You're not providing them for them. And then by using the Google platform, they can have their employees and colleagues connecting with them digitally at no cost to the company and at no cost to the user. So we talk about a browser and we talk about a search engine, and And what the heck, why would that even matter? Well, Google Chrome, when it launched, was just another browser. And you had had other browsers that you'd used before. But today, they're actually worth 848 billion of the market share. And that's just such a big number that it actually is meaningless. But that number's doubled in just the last 5 years. So they're not going away. In fact, they're getting bigger. And in launching that browser, they're also taking over the market share of who uses what browser to go onto the internet. And as we'll learn today, they're kind of clever in how they did it, because using Chrome not only turns up better search results because their search engine results are so fast and so powerful, but actually using Chrome is a key or a gateway to unlock the ability to use all their apps seamlessly. What I personally appreciated about Google's approach is shown in this slide. This just from the other day. I opened up Microsoft Edge and look at on the left-hand side, the just total gobbledygook and too much information that they provide. I went there to use their search engine, which they use Bing, and I think it turns up terrible results. But why do I want 25 seriously delicious scalloped potato recipes? Have you seen this in your news feed? And it's so irritating. Or a picture of the Queen, or a news story about PayPal. I don't totally mind the hockey reference down there, but I don't care what Prince Harry is doing on any given day. I'm just coming here because I want information. Well, on the right side of the screen, Google's approach was totally different. They said, we're going to give you a blank slate. We'll show you a few icons underneath of what you may want to visit because you visited it or whatever, but you just type it in and we'll find it for you. Well, that clarity that they provided was to change our minds about what the internet was really used for. It was no longer this big cesspool of information that we had to wade through, but we could give really narrow searches. Did your mom ever say to you, like, probably she did, so give me, a thumbs up or a laughter, if your mom ever said, yeah, well, if all your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do it too? My mom used that when I argued about curfew. I wanted certain curfew extensions. And so she loved that line. I don't care if all your friends are out till whatever time. Well, I sort of want to encourage you to jump off the bridge with Google because all your friends are doing it. No, it's just if you can really own understanding how it works, you can take your digital technology skills and transfer them into any work environment. WEM's not the only place I engage with professionally. And one of my other main places I engage with, it's all Google. And at every level of information sharing and development, it's just so accessible and so free. So we don't want to think about Google just like, oh, Google, that's the way we surf the internet. No, that's over. That's old thinking. The new way is really thinking, hey, what is G Suite and how does that make my life easier? And what are the tools that are available to me? So you might have a favorite browser already. You might have a certain way you go onto the internet. I think based on your surveys, a lot of you do use Chrome already, probably because you discovered that Google has a good way of producing good and effective search results. So maybe you do go onto the internet and you do use the Google search engines. But it's worth noting that you could go on to, say, Microsoft Edge, and then within that window, you could open up Google.com. So there is a way to use Google as only a search engine and not the browser that you used. But to make it all work, it really is about brand integration. That's Google's whole strategy to get you loyal and to get their platforms to work seamlessly. So if you have an Android device, you probably already have Chrome installed. If you have an Apple or a Microsoft product, you would probably need to add the Chrome browser. And it's worth understanding at this point that all of the Google products, everything in the Google suite is an app. So they all do stand alone and you could use just that app and never use anything else. Chrome is also an app that is standalone, but it is the app that will make your life 1,000,000 times easier. So when you want to use the various apps, let's say you're wanting to use them on your phone, you would have to download them separately if you just wanted to use them separately. But I want to suggest to you that the easiest portal and way to use it, especially from a laptop or computer, would be to have Chrome and to have that installed. Also, pinning it to your taskbar is an important step in just making your life easier and not having to type and launch and search every time. Now, there are instructions on how to do this in today's handouts. So in terms of installing Chrome and in terms of pinning it to your taskbar, those are some important pieces. It is worth noting that if you're using a Microsoft device or laptop, it's pretty user-friendly to do that. If you're using an Apple one, the instructions are a little bit different on how to install and use that. I see a good question in the chat that asks about what is Edge, and that's just that blue E that you could use to access the internet through Microsoft's brand. So instead of Heinz ketchup, there's the French's ketchup. Well, Google uses Chrome and Microsoft uses Edge. So that's just that dark blue E. And if you look at the bottom of my screen right now, you can see just to the right of where the blue arrow is, you can see a dark blue E, and beside it, it says Mail. That icon on your computer is what would take you to the internet by using the Microsoft brand. So, okay, this famous Chrome, whoop-de-doo. She says we need it. What the heck? Why do we need it? Why can't I just use the internet for whatever I need to access? Why do I have to do it through Google? Well, it's kind of important because if you want to know how many apps has Google launched, well, a more recent count is 267. So there's actually all of these products that are owned by Google. They all function independently. You could download all these apps onto your phone, and that would be ridiculous. But there is sort of a top of the list that we use professionally. We find that we use the app Chrome and we install that on our devices, and we use that as the portal to get to everything else. So Google Drive is a storage cloud. Docs is where you would do your letters, your posters, your policy manuals, the things that are word heavy. And then Sheets is what you'd use to do your spreadsheets. So the things that have the numerical calculations, you're tracking, you're dealing with volumes of data and you want to organize it, those you would use Sheets for. And then the other key ones in the workplace are the calendar, the Gmail, and the slides. Now, depending on the pace of our sessions together, I don't know how deep we'll actually get into those ones. So I just want to give one note that the Google Calendar is actually a really incredible tool. So you can use that with a group. You could decide who has access to see your calendar and which aspects of your calendar. You can mark some things as private. I work with one team where 3 of us share a shared calendar, and we have a 4th anonymous identity in that calendar where it involves a different project that we're working on. And we have color-coded things. Like when something's in pink, I know what that means to our team. And we can see each other's availability. We can mark out our privacy. So they don't know if I've gone to take the dog to the vet. They don't see those notes in there. But for you to, like, I want to give you applause if you're using the calendar and comfortable in it. It works really great for families too. So to get to any of the apps, if you're using a laptop or PC, we're not talking about phones and tablets here, but if you're using your computer, you could type the name of whatever app Google has, then the dot key, and then google.com. So if I want to get into my Gmail, I could type mail.google.com. If I want to create a new doc, I could type docs.google.com. And I use Google Draw. It's a place you can do drawings and technical things. And I could type drawings.google.com. But really the one that I want you to be familiar with is drive.google.com. And although Google has the most amazing search features, for you to be organized and not run out of storage space and not lose things, but to really own and manage the Google products that you use, I would love it if you could get familiar with drive.google.com. Now you can install Drive as its own icon, have a shortcut on your desktop, but essentially you could go to any browser and you could, well, use Chrome to make your life simple and type in drive.google.com, and that is going to be your home base of where you keep everything happening out of. So in knowing that Google Suite is like a whole brand that has many, many products, I have this little image here for you to see that really all those products work together, but the foundation and the part that holds them up is Chrome. If you use Chrome to access them, or if you use Chrome to get onto the internet in order to find all of your Google apps, if you use Chrome to get onto the internet to find all of your Google documents, your life will be very smooth. There's ways around a lot of the things that I'm saying, but I think it's important to have the foundation stone in place. And the reason is because we want to own Google Drive. We want to have it, know it, dominate it, have it organized. And if we have our own Google Drive in order, all the products are super easy to use. So conceptually, Google Chrome is what got you onto the internet. And once you're there, it's knowing that Google wants to store all your work online. It doesn't want to store the work on your actual piece of plastic or your actual device. It wants it to store it in a cloud. And so in order to have it in a cloud in a manageable way that you could find it, it uses Google Drive. So it uses this other app that you can use to find all of your things. And Google Drive is connected to your identity. Now, the features of Google Drive is really about, they try to hook you in with some of the free storage. It's really about convenience. So really, I could broadcast this webinar that we're doing today from Africa or Egypt or wherever it is I wanted to travel. I would not even take my laptop with me. I would just get on a plane, go to wherever it is I'm going. When I get to the other end, I would find a computer with an internet connection. And as long as I remember my Gmail address and my password, I log in and I have access to my whole PowerPoint presentation, all my notes, my calendar, and everything. So Google really wanted to create a way that it isn't about you and your device crashing and you unplugging your device to power it up again and find and recover all your documents. They said, hey, we'll take care of all that stuff. We'll host it all on our servers. You just get an internet connection. Now, that being said, please, can you show me with maybe your thumbs up or maybe your crying emoji? Are you old enough to know what this song would make reference to here? Does this song sound familiar to anyone? Oh, I showed my children this the other day. They had absolutely no idea what this song was. And so this should really be, this should be said. We like to think that we have some kind of privacy online, and you don't. Really, for any web browser you're using, you don't. Everything is quite known. Your IP address is known. Your user data is known. Even if you clear your cookies, even if you're browsing incognito, you're not actually hidden. And so I just like to give people a heads up, because with Google, not only is all that information so handily stored for you, but it's stored on a Google server. It's not on your personal computer. It's on someone else's server somewhere. Now, in the other industry I work in where we do use Google, it's a highly confidential industry. There's severe legal issues with the type of content we're sharing, and we do use Google and we do trust the platform at this time. But I would say if there's anything that you just need to know, ultimately it's online in a server that's owned by somebody else and not you. So their big catch was it's all free. You could get into a brand new Chromebook, a Google version of a laptop. You could get into a brand new Chromebook for like $200. So cheap. They're lightweight, they're portable. I have them, and they're super easy to use. They have no software on them, so their speed is incredibly fast. There's nothing slowing it down. And the thing is, it's just to get you on to the internet. So instead of paying for software and speed and all those specs on laptops, like who even knows what all of those are, instead you're actually just getting down to the point where you're paying for a membership or subscription fees to store your stuff. Initially, if you're working independently, you're probably really never going to have to pay for a long time. Small and medium-sized startups, they end up paying less than $10 a month for the amount of storage they need. And why did Google do this for us? What's the whole idea? This was their whole idea. They said, hey, our competitors built products that work really well on laptops, and they work sort of well when they try to share information with each other. Instead of us creating information and software that you can use yourself and then choose to share in a 1, 2, 3-step process, let's build our software only for collaboration. So let's do collaboration as our main goal and then add on as many functions as we can with the software. For collaboration, what do we mean by that? I think as you Wemians or Wemitonians know, we do this all the time in our workplaces. We're sometimes sharing curriculum, sometimes sharing outcomes and data. And so really sharing and interfacing on information with each other, dialoguing, analyzing, contributing to the different information that we're keeping. It's really someone else can work on a document with you, or someone else could work on a project with you. That's the collaboration piece. And the old way used to be you'd work on a file and then you emailed it to someone, they would contribute and they would email it back to you. And Google said, hey, I can make that like so much easier. Let's just get you to work on that file live together. So that G Suite stuff, or that top 7 that we use in the workplace, those things that we can do on Google that are pretty easy if we're accessing them via Google Drive, are making the letters, the spreadsheets, the presentations. This is a funny one to me because I find I have used Google Slides a fair amount, and yet I still call it PowerPoint. For some reason, the phrase PowerPoint is sort of like Kleenex, right? We talk about, do you have a Kleenex? And we really mean, do you have a facial tissue? But the brand name just sort of stuck years and years ago. And I find that I hear that a lot in the workplace with PowerPoint, that if we're talking about a slideshow, we don't say slideshow. Often people say, do you have a PowerPoint presentation? Well, Google's version of that is just called slides. So I'm just curious, can you think of a file that you use routinely, maybe on a daily basis? You find you're always going back to that file, or on a weekly basis you're going back to that? Could you use the chat and just give me an idea of the type of file you find you're in routinely? Lots of Word docs, lots of spreadsheets. Yeah, I go back to those often too. Yep. Types of files that we would use, like what kind of information would we share? To give you an example, if we were in a retail environment, the type of file we might return to frequently would be a time card, or a schedule. So where we're doing the employee schedule, that'd be something we'd be in almost every day, tweaking it, updating it. What type of informational reports or documents do you find you're in? Photos, maps, yeah, searching for stuff, creating curricula, absolutely. In there all the time, and probably collaborating on those too, I would imagine. All kinds of reports, absolutely. So Google Drive is a tool we can use to store all these things where we could collaborate with others. Now, I just want to clarify, when we go into this, we're about to look at how Google Drive works. And I want to clarify, if you've used Google Docs in the past, you would know that you could go to docs.google.com, or you could click on a Google Docs icon and open that up and just start making a Google Doc. And I want you to just undo that thinking a little bit and think, when I go into anything of mine that I've saved already, or I want to save in Google, I don't want to enter through any other app than Google Drive. That is my foundation to keep it all together. So when you first go to Google, if you just went to google.com and you opened that up in your Chrome browser, your screen would look something like this. Now, up in the top corner, you can see that I have the letter R. My name is Rochelle. So that means that Google had me signed in already, or it prompted me to sign in. The idea that there's an R there is the indicator that it's attached to my ID and I've already logged in. You can use a photo there. You could use any letter you want. You could put a picture, a selfie, a picture of your dog, whatever, but having something distinctive in that spot shows you're already logged in. If you did not have it, you would look like the screen on the left where you have a sign in button. So that's a key piece here, because when we go in and we're looking for something, we won't be able to find or have access to anything if Google doesn't know who we are. So going back to the every move you make, every step you take, actually it's sort of related to how you're going to find your information and store your information. If you're not logged in, you don't have access. Once we're in, we're looking for the Google Drive icon. So again, you could have the Drive icon as its own shortcut on your desktop, and that's perfect. Or you can just access it through google.com, logging in, and then clicking on the Drive. The key piece here is I want you to go through the Drive. I think I've said that 5 times. It's okay if you send me a crying emoji. My feelings won't be hurt. It's just so important for me because I went about this the wrong way for about 2 years in a Google platform, and then I unlearned all my mistakes and switched to the way I was doing it, and now it's just made such a difference in productivity. When you're inside of Drive, you can see on the left side a really clean screen. It only shows you what your Drive is. There's a thing to click on for shared with me. I love that because that's where you can find all the things that people have collaborated with you on. It shows you your recents, which is super handy. If you were just working on something an hour ago, you can just click on recent and it'll show you that. Or you can star items to make them favorites. And then when you click on the My Drive drop down, you get options. Do you want to make a new folder within your Google Drive? Do you want to upload a file? So take something that's already saved on your computer in whatever format it is. It doesn't have to be a Google product. It could be a Microsoft Excel file, for example. Do you want to upload that and save it on your Drive? So I could take my spreadsheet that I'm working on in the office, upload it to my Drive, then I'll go fly to Africa with no computer. And when I get to Africa, I have that exact spreadsheet in front of me. So I can upload any files that are saved to my computer already. I could upload a whole folder, or I have options to go into program specific areas. So I could go specifically into Google Docs. This can be my portal to get in there, whether that's going to be for a new Google Doc or one that I know I already have there. But the Drive is my portal to go in to whatever software program I want. Of course, it does say more at the bottom. So I also have the option to go into a different software application. Also, it's just the common ones are up top. So just to make sure that we have a real good sense of our bearings on how to use Drive, I'm going to go quickly through a couple slides here to orient you to what it looks like, because this should be your preferred portal for managing all of your documents. You're going to open up a browser, meaning you're going to find a way to get onto the internet. Of course, I want that to be Chrome because then it'll work seamlessly for you. Up at the top, you're typing in google.com. If you used Chrome, this would be your default setting. It would automatically be Google. In some workplaces, it's actually preset for you. So in some workplaces, the home page always has to be, say, wem.mb.ca. And so if that default setting is something else, you go in and type google.com. If you already have an account, you just click sign in. And at that stage, you're putting in your Gmail address. So you do not have a separate identity for Google Docs or Google Drive. It's all your Gmail address. So the same Gmail address that you'd give to a friend to email you, that's what you're putting in here, and you're using the same password to get in. Once you're in there, you click on the favorite icon. Who knows what that's called? That is the famous Google Waffle. So it does look like a waffle, doesn't it? I'm sorry to bring up waffles. It's a few minutes before lunchtime. I might have us a little bit hungry here. But the waffle there, it's just that grid of 9 little squares to look like a waffle. And that's just sort of saying, hey, you've got a whole menu of options here. So if you click on that waffle, it will bring up all of the Google apps that you want to use. So typically it brings up the most common or popular ones, and then it brings up in its algorithm the ones that you use the most. So clicking on the waffle gets you there. And that, of course, is how you can see all of the apps, and listed in them is Google Drive. So again, we've come to this slide knowing that we went to google.com, we signed in, we clicked on the waffle, and we found Drive. A faster way would be to type drive.google.com, or a faster way would be to click on a Drive icon that we've saved to our desktop. It does not matter to me what method you choose to go in. I think what does matter for efficiencies is knowing that you know how to access your files through the Drive, not through the individual apps. When it does open up, it'll open up in a new tab. If it's your first time going in, Drive actually gives you a little orientation. So it's pretty cool because you can go ahead and get oriented on how to manage your chat, manage all of your files, manage all of your folders, and so on. Waiting for the internet to catch up with my slide clicking. Once you're inside Drive, clicking on New is the key, because you're either going to want to, we're talking about file creation here, we're either going to want to make a new file that we're going to start putting things in, or we're going to want to make a new document. Of course, if I were doing something like today's course, I would go in and I would create a new file. I might name it Google Suite. And then within that file, I would save all manner of things. I could have your student learner handbook as a document, and I could save that in that file. I could have today's PowerPoint as a Google Slides file, and I could save it into that folder. And the folder can hold all kinds of documents that are different file types. When I'm in there, this should look familiar to you because you saw this before. Once I go into Drive and I'm clicking New, I can go ahead and create from there. If I pick to choose to create a new folder, I can start with it empty, and I can pull anything from my computer up into that folder. I also could use any of my Google products. So maybe I've already created a Google spreadsheet. I can add that into that file. Let's say we just want to create a Google Doc, because knowing Google Docs is the best way to go in to the Google Suite. That's the best one to master. I would just click on Google Docs, and a blank document will open for me. So not much different from using a Microsoft product where you would click on, say, the Microsoft Word icon, and then Word would open up. That's essentially what you're doing, but you're doing it through Google. And when you do it, instead of multiple windows opening, they use a tab platform. So you end up with multiple tabs. So on the very far left, I have my email tab open. In the middle, I have Drive open. And then when I was in Drive and I clicked make a new Google Doc, it opened another tab for me. I absolutely love the tab feature. I love this way more than flipping back and forth between different windows. So really, it's understanding that anything we choose off of that waffle, or anytime we choose to create or open a file, it's just another tab that's going to open up. And you can see distinctions in the tabs. So you can see that on the far left, my Gmail inbox has the red M icon. So I know that in that tab, I have an email open. In the one that's open in front of us, I can see the Drive icon. So I know that in that tab, Drive is what's running. To its right, I have Google Docs. So I get not only the name of what program it is or what file it is, but I also get the icon to show me the file type. This is sort of like a woman's brain. give me a thumbs up if your woman's brain is like this. Men, probably yours is too, especially during pandemic. There are always tabs open, multiple tabs in our brain at any time. And I feel like maybe in this way, Google was designed by someone who holds this many tabs open in their brain all the time. So by identifying that, we know that Google Suite is really just saying it's a brand that has multiple models. If you're a car person, Google is like Ford, and then the Edge and the F-250 and the Fusion, those are all the products within the brand. And then Google Drive is one of the products in that brand, but it's the product or the portal that manages all your content. And I find that often Google Docs, let's say, is so easy to use that we ignore Google Drive. And I just want to encourage you that owning and knowing Google Drive is the key to success. I do have information in our next session about how organized we can get. And when we get into our next session, we'll talk not only how to organize our drive and have it in a way that makes files easy to find and visually easy to handle looking at when you're dealing with so much information. And we'll also talk about how to share those files and collaborate in a way that you're not panicked that you didn't send the wrong file to the wrong person. So here's the thing, we're going to go into our Q&A right away and we'll take a couple questions. But you'll find that today's homework is pretty unique. It's having you just get used to making sure you have Chrome, making sure you have your way into Drive and knowing how to log in with your email credentials so that you know what your Drive looks like. And then it's also how to search the internet. So I didn't really talk about that specifically, but it's a little bit of a challenge for you because I find that we think we're really internet savvy when we're doing our searches because we know how to type a sentence into Google and say, hey Google, how many teaspoons are in a cup? But do we know proper search techniques, particularly for those of us who write curricula? Do we employ the right search techniques within Google to turn up credible results? And so that's today's homework, is looking at the tips and tricks of internet searching. I'm going to ask you a little bit about that tomorrow and find out what you took in or what you learned from that. And if you practice it with something fun, it usually sticks for the workplace. So pick a topic that you do want to learn about online. It doesn't have to be workplace related tonight. And then you'll find that you'll be able to transfer that skill into what you're doing with WEM. So Jessica, can you take it away?
Excellent. Well, let's give Rochelle a hand for that amazing first webinar that we did today. Thank you so much. So your first question today is, what's the difference between a program and an app?
Basically nothing. So okay. Let's compare programs. Let's think one program that we understand well is Microsoft Word. And that would be a program that you could launch from the launch menu on your computer. And Google's apps are basically the same thing. It's just that they download onto your devices like individual applications. But in this context, when we're talking about the software, a program and an app are pretty interchangeable.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So your next question is, so is it currently use Microsoft? Will your desktop have both on it, or do you uninstall Microsoft?
No, keep Microsoft. And here's a disclaimer I should have given right at the beginning. This seminar might sound like I'm just like all Google, no Microsoft. I love Microsoft Word. I feel like nobody can touch some of the things that Microsoft Word can do. It's a beautiful program and I love it. I feel like it's an essential skill for my kids to have in life. I push it on them all the time. So this isn't who's better and just exclusive use. This is recognizing that one of the strengths Google has is their collaboration settings are a lot easier to use. So maybe I have a Microsoft Word doc and I want to upload it to my Google Drive and convert it to a Google Doc. And from there, I'll share it with my colleagues. Instead of using Microsoft Teams or Microsoft 365, because that's sort of another layer of complicated, whereas the Google version is a little easier to work on. Don't get rid of your Microsoft icons, and the two can work together. It's same as if you're an Apple user. You can have all of your Apple software that you normally use, and you can have Google just there as an extra app or extra access point.
Perfect. All right. So the next one is, and that was from Lori. We got Josie next. I have a Chromebook that I love to use, but I find it difficult to transfer files between Microsoft programs and Google. Is there a way to transfer files without losing info or formatting?
Great question.
Yes.
I have the same issue. I use two laptops. I use a Microsoft laptop and I use a Google Chromebook. So I would say if you're just working with Google products, you're making a Google spreadsheet, you're going to have it in your Google Drive, and you're going to share it with your colleagues. Use your Chromebook. It's faster, it's easier. Drive is so fast on a Chromebook, it's unbelievable. But if you want your Microsoft products, you would want to access through a Microsoft portal and upload those into your Google Drive. So I use my Microsoft laptop to do all my uploading into the Drive. And then from there, I'm free to use everything on my Chromebook. It's not, the Chromebook doesn't like to talk back to Microsoft the same way that the Microsoft device talks to your Google. So unfortunately, I would say probably for ease, you would do the Microsoft computer to upload your files, and that would make it a lot easier. You could do away with Chromebook essentially and do everything off of a Microsoft computer for Google. But like a Chromebook, I carry a Chromebook in my purse. It's so lightweight, it's so fast. So
Perfect. Thank you. So we've got a few more questions. The next one's from Anne Henley. How about download to work on with MS Word? Did I say that? How about download to work on with MS Word?
Yeah, I think if I understand the question, I think I understand it to mean, could you take your Google Doc and download that as a Word document and work with it that way? Absolutely. And Google recognizes the file type. So just yesterday, I had a Microsoft Word document. I uploaded it to Google Drive, and I worked on it in Google Drive as a Microsoft formatted document. I did not convert it to a Google Doc. I saved it in the original file format. So in so doing, it meant that if I'm going to use it outside of my Drive, there's no file conversion happening. I'm not losing any fonts. I'm not losing any data. You can do that with the PowerPoint too. So I could take a Microsoft PowerPoint, upload it to Google Drive, and work on it and save it in Google Drive as a PowerPoint. I don't have to convert it to a Google slide. It's pretty smart.
So Anne asks, in addition, how about downloading it back to Microsoft?
No problems. Yeah, you're choosing your file type that you're saving it as, and probably like if I'm in Google Drive and I want to save it, I'll keep it in the original file format. I won't convert it. If I want to approach it the other way, I could download it to my Microsoft device, and in that, it will automatically convert it to the Microsoft version of the program. So Word and Doc actually talk to each other very well, and there's not a lot of information lost. If anything, you'll lose a font type. You're not going to lose content.
Perfect. Okay, couple more. All right, how easy would it be to upload a document saved here to Opal?
Great question.
I love that question.
I will find the answer to that because I don't know Opal. So.
It's some of us use Opal, and so we'll get that answer to you, and hope maybe we can have it ready for tomorrow's webinar, possibly.
We'll do some research.
Yeah. Exactly, but we'll find that answer for you. Okay, and it looks like the last question. I delete, I guess that's if I delete a file that I share with someone else, would that file be deleted for them as well? That's a great question. Now, for me, I guess it was on the platform, but this is your wheelhouse. What do you think?
It's a great question. Yes and no. So if you're the owner of the file, like, because there's always a file owner, and then everybody else just has a share capability. If you're the owner, yes, when you delete that file, the file will be deleted. However, file sharing is a lot like every move you make, every step you take, I'll be watching you. The minute you've shared that file, someone can download it and do a save as or make a copy in any format that they want and save it anywhere. So yes, you as the owner will have deleted it and it will be gone, but they have had access to it and could have saved it wherever and even saved former versions.
Right. So it's like a link, for example, that we're talking about, that it could
Yeah,
disconnect, but other than that.
they're linking into your drive to see the file live. You've given them access into your filing cabinet, essentially, and you can lock your cabinet again and kick them out. But the last version they had, or the last photocopy they had, is theirs
Yeah.
forever.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'm going to just double check the questions that we've asked, answered all of them, and it looks like we have. So thank you, everyone. Please give Rochelle a big fat applause with the icon. Thank you so much. And in closing, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, as well as just to remember that if you haven't done your pre-assessment, please do so. During the chat, I was supposed to send you the workbook for tomorrow, and I'm going to do that right now. And I want to wish everybody a great day. So I'm not going to disconnect right now. I'm going to put on the second tomorrow's workbook. And here it is. Excellent. That should be showing up in your chat right now. So you can see that. Just click and download that and save it to your computer. Thank you, Josie. So I want to wish everybody a great day. We'll see you tomorrow at what time? I know what time. What time, Rochelle?
11 a.m. Central Time.
Excellent. 11 a.m. Thank you so much. I know this was a foundational class today, but we're going to build on our skills. Have a wonderful day, and make sure, I'm going to stay here for a minute. Make sure you download the link for the book and do your pre-assessment, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rochelle.